The Mona Lisa, also known as La Gioconda in Italian, is one of the most famous and enigmatic paintings in the world, created by the genius of Leonardo da Vinci around 1503 to 1506, though some believe he may have continued working on it until 1517. The painting is currently housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris, where it attracts millions of visitors each year. The Mona Lisa is not just a work of art, it is a cultural and historical icon that has captivated audiences for centuries with its mystery, beauty, and innovative techniques. The painting depicts a woman seated against a distant, serene landscape, which contrasts with the calm expression on her face. The identity of the woman has been the subject of debate for years, though the most widely accepted theory is that she is Lisa Gherardini, a Florentine woman, wife of a wealthy merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. The name Mona Lisa is a contraction of Mona Lisa, which means Lady Lisa in Italian. The woman is shown in a three-quarter pose with her hands resting on her lap, and she gazes directly at the viewer with an expression that has been described as enigmatic and mysterious. Her smile, in particular, has puzzled viewers for centuries. It seems to shift depending on the angle from which you view the painting, a feature achieved through Leonardo's use of the sfumato technique. One of the most revolutionary aspects of the Mona Lisa is Leonardo's use of sfumato, a technique he perfected that involves the delicate blending of colors and tones to create a soft, smoky effect without harsh lines. The result is a painting that feels alive, as if the subject is transitioning between different expressions or emotions. The subtle transitions between light and shadow on the face, particularly around the mouth and eyes, give Mona Lisa's face a lifelike quality. This blending of light and shadow was not only a technical achievement, but also an attempt to replicate the way light naturally interacts with the human face. By avoiding hard outlines and emphasizing smooth transitions, Leonardo was able to capture a greater sense of realism and depth than had ever been seen before. The background of the Mona Lisa is just as remarkable as the figure herself. It portrays a landscape that feels both realistic and fantastical, with winding roads, distant mountains, and a hazy horizon. The choice of a surreal, almost dreamlike setting has contributed to the sense of mystery surrounding the figure in the foreground. The landscape is believed to be symbolic, possibly representing the harmony between humanity and nature, or simply showcasing Leonardo's mastery of depth and perspective. Leonardo's skillful use of perspective in the background enhances the realism of the painting. The winding paths and distant mountains were painted using atmospheric perspective, a technique that makes objects appear lighter and less detailed the further they are from the viewer, mimicking how we perceive the world. One of the most captivating aspects of the Mona Lisa is her smile. Over the centuries, critics and art lovers have speculated about the meaning of her expression. The smile seems to change when viewed from different angles, at times appearing to be subtle and serene, while at other times it seems almost playful or elusive. This optical illusion is a result of Leonardo's application of sfumato, and it creates a sense of ambiguity that has intrigued viewers for centuries. Art historians and psychologists have also pondered the psychological impact of the Mona Lisa's smile, with some suggesting that it represents a woman's inner complexity, blending joy, sadness, and a hint of mystery. The ambiguity of her expression has become one of the central themes in discussions of the painting. While the most accepted theory is that the Mona Lisa is a portrait of Lisa Gherardini, other theories abound. Some art historians believe that the painting is a self-portrait of Leonardo himself, disguised as a woman. Others suggest that the subject is a noble woman, or a composite of various models. There have even been theories that the Mona Lisa represents a broader ideal of femininity, with her ambiguous expression and serene demeanor, symbolizing both the mysteries of womanhood and the universal nature of human emotion. However, none of these theories have been definitively proven, and the true identity of the Mona Lisa remains an enduring mystery. In 1911, the Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre Museum by an Italian named Vincenzo Peruggia. He believed the painting should be returned to Italy, as he considered it a national treasure. The painting was recovered in 1913, and the theft only heightened the public's fascination with the artwork. Since then, the Mona Lisa has become not only an artistic masterpiece, but also a symbol of mystery, intrigue, and cultural significance. Her iconic status was solidified during the 20th century, and today she is one of the most recognized and celebrated images in the world. Reproductions of the Mona Lisa appear everywhere, from advertisements to pop culture, cementing her place as a symbol of fine art and mystery. The Mona Lisa has influenced generations of artists, thinkers, and philosophers. Leonardo's innovations in painting, such as the use of sfumato and his understanding of light, perspective, and anatomy, paved the way for future developments in art. The painting also set a new standard for portraiture, emphasizing not just the physical likeness but also the psychological depth and complexity of the subject. Beyond the realm of art, the Mona Lisa has sparked countless theories, books, and even conspiracy theories. Some have proposed that hidden symbols and messages are encoded in the painting, leading to a variety of interpretations of the work's deeper meanings. The painting has also inspired countless imitations and adaptations in popular culture, from humorous parodies to serious reinterpretations. The Mona Lisa is more than just a portrait. It is a timeless enigma that has captured the imagination of generations. Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece combines technical brilliance with psychological depth, making it one of the most important works in the history of art. Whether through her ambiguous smile, her serene presence, or the innovative techniques used to create her, the Mona Lisa continues to fascinate, inspire, and provoke thought centuries after it was painted. The Last Supper, L'Ultima Cena, in Italian, is one of Leonardo da Vinci's most renowned and iconic paintings, created between 1495 and 1498. It is located in the convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan, Italy, and is considered a cornerstone of Western art. The painting depicts the moment when Jesus Christ announces to his disciples that one of them will betray him, capturing the emotional reactions of the apostles in a dramatic and profound way. Leonardo's revolutionary use of perspective, composition, and psychological depth makes the Last Supper a masterpiece that continues to captivate viewers today. The Last Supper represents the biblical scene from the Gospel of John, in which Jesus shares his final meal with his 12 apostles before his crucifixion. In the moment depicted in the painting, Jesus announces that one of his disciples will betray him, leading to an intense and varied set of reactions from the group. The scene is set in a large dining hall with a long table, and each figure's posture, facial expression, and gesture is meticulously designed to convey the emotional turmoil caused by this revelation. The composition is highly structured and organized, with Jesus placed at the center of the table. His calm demeanor contrasts with the shock and agitation of his disciples. Jesus' figure is framed symmetrically, and the vanishing point of the perspective lines on the table and the room itself is located directly behind his head, emphasizing his central role in the composition. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Last Supper is Leonardo's use of linear perspective. By creating a single vanishing point in the center of the composition, Leonardo was able to draw the viewer's attention directly to the figure of Jesus. The perspective lines in the architectural elements of the room, such as the windows and the ceiling beams, converge at this vanishing point, adding to the sense of depth and realism. This technical mastery in perspective was groundbreaking for the time and allowed Leonardo to enhance the visual impact of the scene. It made the viewer feel as if they were standing within the room with the figures, creating an immersive and dramatic effect. One of the most notable features of the Last Supper is the psychological depth Leonardo gives to each of the apostles. The moment of Jesus' announcement is a turning point in the narrative, and Leonardo captures the various emotional responses of the apostles in a highly expressive and human way. Rather than showing them as static, anonymous figures, Leonardo portrays each apostle with individual reactions, adding to the drama of the scene. 1. Jesus is shown as calm and composed, his hands poised with a sense of quiet authority as he speaks. His expression conveys serenity and acceptance, perhaps alluding to his knowledge of the fate that awaits him. 2. Judas, the apostle who will betray Jesus, is shown in a darkened corner of the composition. His face reflects guilt and trepidation, and his posture is more closed off compared to the others. Notably, he is reaching toward a dish with Jesus, alluding to the moment in the Gospel when Jesus reveals the betrayer. 3. Peter is depicted as leaning forward toward John, who is seated next to Jesus, and gripping a knife in his hand, a gesture that symbolizes his violent instinct, foreshadowing his later action when he tries to defend Jesus. His expression is a mixture of shock and confusion. 4. Thomas, the apostle who will later doubt the resurrection of Jesus, is shown with his finger raised, as if asking a question. This symbolizes his later skepticism and his role in seeking proof of Jesus' return. 5. Andrew, the brother of Peter, is shown with his hands open in disbelief, his face filled with concern. 6. The other apostles are similarly portrayed with a wide range of emotions, from anger to sadness and surprise to fear, making each figure feel like a real, emotional person caught in the midst of a profound moment. Through the use of body language and facial expressions, Leonardo captures the moment's intensity giving the painting a sense of narrative dynamism that was groundbreaking for the time. The Last Supper is rich with symbolism that adds layers of meaning to the scene. Some of the most significant symbols include 1. The number 12. The 12 apostles correspond to the 12 hours of the day, a subtle connection that ties the event to the passage of time and the inevitability of Christ's sacrifice. 2. The position of Jesus, the way that Jesus is placed in the center, with his body forming a triangle, symbolizes his role as the spiritual foundation of Christianity. The triangular shape also evokes the Holy Trinity, with Jesus representing God the Son. 3. The chalice and the Eucharist. Although not shown explicitly in this painting, the chalice representing the wine of the Eucharist is often interpreted as being symbolized by the cup that Jesus holds in his hand. The Eucharist is a key element of the Christian faith and connects this moment with the sacrament of communion. 4. Judas's shadow. The shadow that falls over Judas in the corner of the painting symbolizes the darkness of his betrayal. His placement away from the group further isolates him, reinforcing his role as the traitor. 5. The hand gesture. The way that Jesus and Judas's hands almost touch, yet are separated by the dish of food between them, symbolizes the moment of betrayal that will soon come to pass. Leonardo's techniques in the Last Supper are groundbreaking and showcase his unparalleled skill as an artist. One of the most notable aspects of the painting is Leonardo's use of light and shadow, chiaroscuro, to give depth to the figures and to create a three-dimensional effect. The figures are bathed in soft light, with the shading on their faces and clothing, giving them a realistic presence in the space. However, the painting was created using a technique that was innovative for the time, but ultimately unstable. Instead of fresco, which was the traditional medium for wall paintings, Leonardo used a tempera on dry plaster technique. This caused the painting to deteriorate much faster than traditional frescoes, leading to significant damage over the centuries. The painting has undergone numerous restorations since its creation. The Last Supper has had a profound influence on the world of art. Its revolutionary approach to perspective, composition, and emotional depth has inspired countless artists. It is considered a prime example of Renaissance art and showcases Leonardo's mastery of both technical skill and human psychology. The painting's cultural and religious significance has also contributed to its enduring legacy. The drama and intensity of the moment, combined with the symbolism and emotional depth, make it one of the most powerful depictions of Christ's final moments with his disciples. Over time, the Last Supper has been referenced, analyzed, and reinterpreted in a variety of ways, from religious studies to popular culture. It has inspired books, films, and even conspiracy theories, adding to its mystique and ensuring its place in the cultural imagination. The Last Supper is more than just a depiction of a biblical event. It is a reflection of Leonardo da Vinci's genius and his ability to blend art with emotion, perspective, and storytelling. Through this painting, Leonardo not only captured a pivotal moment in Christian history, but also created a work that transcends its time, becoming a timeless masterpiece that continues to inspire and move people all over the world. Vitruvian Man, one of Leonardo da Vinci's most iconic drawings, is both an artistic masterpiece and a work of scientific exploration. Created around 1490, this drawing is based on the writings of the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius, specifically his work De Architectura. The drawing is not just an anatomical study, but a profound representation of the relationship between human proportions and the natural world. It merges Leonardo's deep knowledge of human anatomy, geometry, and art in a single image. Today, the Vitruvian Man is widely regarded as a symbol of the Renaissance, embodying the ideal of the unity of art and science and the idealized human form. The Vitruvian Man depicts a male figure drawn in two superimposed positions, with his arms and legs extended inside both a square and a circle. The figure is based on the proportions described by the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius, who believed that the human body was a model of symmetry and proportion that could be used to create harmonious architecture. In Vitruvius' writings, he argues that the perfectly proportioned human body could serve as the basis for designing buildings and structures, with the measurements of the body reflecting an ideal balance of geometry and mathematics. Vitruvius's principles of proportion are based on the idea that the human body can be divided into a series of symmetrical parts, with each part proportional to the others. Leonardo's drawing of Vitruvian Man is an interpretation of Vitruvius's description, where he describes the ideal human proportions. 1. Height of the human body. According to Vitruvius, the human body can be divided into 8 equal parts. For example, a person's height is equal to the length of the span of their arms, which also equals the width of the shoulders and the length of the legs. 2. The circle. The figure is positioned inside a circle, which symbolizes the cosmos or the universe. The circle is often seen as a symbol of infinity and wholeness. It also reflects the belief that the human being is the central point of the universe, and that the human form can be harmoniously aligned with the laws of nature. 3. The square. The square surrounding the figure represents the earthly and human aspects of existence, contrasting with the universal symbol of the circle. The square is a symbol of stability and groundedness, relating to the physical and material world. By placing the human figure within both a circle and a square, Leonardo illustrates Vitruvius's idea that the human body is the key to understanding the proportions of the universe. Combining mathematical principles with human anatomy, Vitruvian Man is not just a technical or anatomical drawing, but also a work of art. Leonardo's mastery of line work, perspective, and anatomical detail is evident in the piece, showcasing his ability to blend scientific inquiry with artistic expression. Here are some of the artistic elements. 1. Anatomical precision. The figure is drawn with a high degree of anatomical accuracy. Leonardo's deep study of human anatomy through dissection and observation allowed him to depict the muscles, bones, and proportions of the human body with remarkable precision. This is one of the first instances in which human anatomy is used not only for artistic purposes, but also as a way of exploring universal truths about nature and the human condition. 2. Contrapposto, stance. The figure adopts a contrapposto pose, a term derived from ancient Greek art that refers to the stance in which the weight of the body is shifted onto one leg, creating a natural curve in the body. This stance, although not extreme in this drawing, reflects the Renaissance fascination with naturalism and the human body. 3. Symmetry and balance. The human figure in the drawing is a perfect example of symmetry. Leonardo uses balanced proportions to convey the idea that the body can be divided into harmonious parts. This symmetry is important not only in art, but also in Leonardo's scientific exploration as he sought to find the underlying harmony of the natural world. The use of line. Leonardo's use of clean, flowing lines in the drawing reflects his mastery of sketching and draftsmanship. The simplicity and elegance of the lines create a sense of clarity and grace, helping to emphasize the proportions and balance of the human figure. The Vitruvian Man can be interpreted in several ways, with meanings that transcend its immediate depiction of human anatomy. 1. Microcosm and macrocosm. The circle and square surrounding the figure can be seen as symbols of the microcosm, the human body, and the macrocosm, the universe. Leonardo's drawing reflects the idea that humans are a miniature version of the greater universe, and that understanding the human form can lead to a deeper understanding of the cosmos. The proportions of the human body are not arbitrary, but reflect the same mathematical and geometric principles that govern the natural world. 2. Humanism. During the Renaissance, the study of the human body became a key element in the movement of humanism, which emphasized the potential of human beings, both intellectually and physically. The Vitruvian Man is an embodiment of this idea, showing humanity as a creature of both rationality and beauty. 3. Unity of art and science. The Vitruvian Man is a perfect example of Leonardo's belief in the unity of art and science. Leonardo, a polymath, was not just an artist, but also an engineer, anatomist, and scientist. In this drawing, he combined his artistic skill with his scientific curiosity, demonstrating that both fields were equally important in understanding the world and the human form. The Vitruvian Man stands as a symbol of how the Renaissance sought to unite different branches of knowledge into a coherent whole. 4th, perfection of the human form. The Vitruvian Man also reflects the Renaissance ideal of the human body as a model of perfection. The balanced proportions and symmetry of the figure convey an ideal of beauty and harmony that was central to Renaissance thought. The Vitruvian Man has become one of the most widely recognized symbols of the Renaissance and Leonardo da Vinci's genius. It represents the pinnacle of Leonardo's pursuit to merge art with science and to understand the inherent proportions of the human body in the context of the natural world. It has influenced artists, architects, scientists, and thinkers throughout the centuries. The image of the Vitruvian Man has been referenced in numerous works of art, literature, and popular culture. It remains a symbol of human intellectual achievement and the pursuit of knowledge. The drawing continues to inspire and resonate with those who seek to understand the deep connection between the human body, nature, and the universe. Vitruvian Man is not merely a study of human proportions. It is a timeless symbol of the connection between art and science, humanity, and the universe. Leonardo da Vinci's drawing encapsulates the Renaissance ideal of the human being as a perfect balance between the material and the spiritual, the natural and the divine. Through the Vitruvian Man, Leonardo invites us to contemplate the harmony and symmetry that exist both in the human form and in the universe, making it an enduring masterpiece that speaks to the intellectual curiosity and artistic genius of the Renaissance. The Lady with an Ermine is one of Leonardo da Vinci's most famous portraits, created around 1489 to 1490. It depicts Cecilia Gallerani, the mistress of Ludovico Sforza, Duke of Milan. The painting is a masterful example of Leonardo's ability to capture the psychological depth of his subjects, as well as his skill in rendering realistic details and using symbolism. The portrait is now housed in the Krakow National Museum in Poland. The Lady with an Ermine is often considered a quintessential example of Renaissance portraiture, combining beauty, naturalism, and symbolism. The subject of the painting, Cecilia Gallerani, was a young woman from a noble Milanese family. She became the lover of Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, and it is believed that the portrait was commissioned by him as a gift for Cecilia. The painting features Cecilia Gallerani in a three-quarter pose, with her head turned slightly to her left, gazing directly at the viewer. She holds an ermine, a small white weasel-like animal that was traditionally associated with nobility and purity. The ermine is an important symbolic element in the painting, and its significance will be explored in more detail later. Leonardo's treatment of Cecilia Gallerani in this portrait is a departure from the traditional profile poses common in earlier Renaissance portraiture. The use of a three-quarter pose, in which the subject's face is slightly turned, but still looking directly at the viewer, adds a sense of life and immediacy to the portrait. This dynamic pose, coupled with the gentle expression on Cecilia's face, gives the painting a sense of psychological depth and humanity. The soft modeling of her face, achieved through Leonardo's mastery of chiaroscuro, the technique of using light and shadow to create a three-dimensional effect, adds to the naturalism of the painting. The light falling across her face, highlighting the contours of her cheek and neck, gives the figure an almost lifelike quality. The folds of her clothing are depicted with great detail, and the subtle use of color, with the rich, deep tones of her dark dress contrasting with the lighter tones of her skin and the ermine, adds to the overall sense of harmony in the composition. The background of the painting is a landscape, a common feature in Leonardo's portraits. The distant, hazy landscape in the background contrasts with the more detailed rendering of Cecilia's face and figure, drawing the viewer's attention to her. The atmospheric perspective used in the background, with the fading colors and soft transitions between light and dark, creates a sense of depth and perspective. The most striking feature of the portrait is the ermine that Cecilia is holding. The animal is not only a symbol of nobility and aristocracy, but also represents purity and chastity. In medieval and Renaissance iconography, the ermine was often associated with virgins and those who were pure of heart. The animal's white fur is also a traditional symbol of purity, and it was often worn by members of the aristocracy, particularly in ceremonial garb. In the context of the portrait, the ermine is likely a symbol of Cecilia's virtue and her status as a noble woman, but it also has a personal connection to her relationship with Ludovico Sforza. The ermine could also refer to Ludovico's heraldic symbol, as the ermine was a symbol used by the Sforza family. It is possible that the ermine in the painting serves as a symbol of Cecilia's connection to Ludovico, highlighting her importance as his lover and muse. One of the most remarkable aspects of the lady with an ermine is Cecilia Gallerani's expression. Unlike the more stoic, idealized faces often seen in earlier Renaissance portraits, Leonardo's portrayal of Cecilia captures a sense of emotional depth and individuality. Her slightly tilted head, direct gaze, and the gentle smile on her lips suggest that she is not merely a passive subject, but an active participant in the moment. There is a sense of intimacy and mystery in her expression, which invites the viewer to ponder her thoughts and emotions. Leonardo's ability to convey this psychological depth is a hallmark of his portraiture, and it reflects his deep understanding of human nature. In this portrait, Cecilia is portrayed not just as a noble woman, but as an individual with her own inner life, thoughts, and feelings. The portrait captures a moment of human connection between the subject and the viewer, making it a timeless work of art. Leonardo's technical mastery is evident in his use of chiaroscuro, the technique that gives the painting its three-dimensional quality. The light falling on Cecilia's face and the soft modeling of her features create a sense of realism and depth that was revolutionary for its time. Leonardo's ability to capture the play of light and shadow on the face, as well as the delicate rendering of the textures of the fabric and the ermine, elevates the portrait beyond a mere depiction of a person to a true work of art. The naturalism in the painting is also evident in the way Cecilia's hair is depicted. The delicate strands of her hair are painted with incredible attention to detail, and the way they catch the light adds to the overall sense of realism. The ermine, too, is rendered with great precision, its fur looking soft and lifelike, almost as if it could be touched. The lady with an ermine was created during the height of the Renaissance, a period in which portraiture became an important genre for capturing the individuality and status of individuals. It was also a time when the Sforza family held significant power in Milan, and members of the aristocracy sought to commission works that not only celebrated their status, but also expressed personal and symbolic meanings. As the lover of Ludovico Sforza, Cecilia Gallerani was part of the Milanese court, and her portrait was likely intended to reflect her beauty, virtue, and noble status. The fact that the painting was created by Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most celebrated artists of the Renaissance, speaks to her importance in Milanese society. The portrait was meant to immortalize her image, not only as a beautiful young woman, but also as a significant figure in the social and political circles of the time. The lady with an ermine is considered one of Leonardo's finest portraits, and it has had a lasting impact on the history of portraiture. The painting's psychological depth, naturalism, and symbolic richness have influenced countless artists who have sought to capture the essence of their subjects with similar attention to detail and emotional resonance. The portrait is also a testament to Leonardo's unique ability to blend science, art, and symbolism in a single work. The painting continues to be studied and admired for its technical brilliance and its ability to convey the complexity of the human spirit. It remains a key work in the study of Leonardo's art and in the broader history of Renaissance portraiture. The Lady with an Ermine is a stunning example of Leonardo da Vinci's mastery as both an artist and a psychologist. Through the depiction of Cecilia Gallerani, he captures not only her external beauty, but also the complexity of her emotions and her inner life. The symbolism of the ermine, combined with the psychological depth of her expression, makes this portrait a rich and multi-layered work of art that continues to captivate viewers today. The Virgin of the Rocks is one of Leonardo da Vinci's most celebrated works, embodying the Renaissance ideal of combining religious symbolism with groundbreaking artistic techniques. The painting exists in two versions, one housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris, the earlier version, completed around 1483 to 1486, and the other in the National Gallery in London, the later version, created around 1495 to 1508. Both versions are deeply significant in the history of art for their innovative composition, use of light and shadow, and emotional depth. The subject of the Virgin of the Rocks is a depiction of the Virgin Mary, the infant Jesus, Saint John the Baptist, and the angel Uriel. The scene is set in a rocky cave or grotto, a motif that became central to the painting. The characters are positioned in a mysterious, almost ethereal landscape that combines realistic detail with spiritual symbolism. The composition features are 1. The Virgin Mary. She is depicted in a serene, protective posture, holding the infant Jesus on her lap. Her calm and graceful demeanor contrasts with the more dynamic figures around her. 2. The infant Jesus. Jesus is placed in a relaxed pose with his hand extended towards St. John, suggesting a connection between the two holy children. This gesture, in the context of Christian iconography, can symbolize the future mission of Jesus and his relationship with John the Baptist. 3. St. John the Baptist. Positioned in the foreground, St. John is depicted as a young child with a lamb, a symbol of his role as the forerunner of Christ and his association with sacrifice. His outstretched hand and gaze towards Jesus emphasize the theme of baptism. The angel Uriel. The angel is portrayed in a protective manner, overseeing the entire scene. He gazes down with a calm, composed expression, adding to the scene's mystical atmosphere. Uriel is often depicted in Renaissance art as a messenger or guide in biblical narratives. The rocky landscape is an essential part of the composition, acting as both a setting and a symbol. The Virgin of the Rocks is often interpreted as a representation of the mystical relationship between the divine and the natural world. The grotto, a natural cave-like setting, may symbolize the shelter that Mary provides to Christ, reflecting her role as a mother and protector. The rocks also symbolize the idea of divinity in the natural world, and their rugged geometric shapes echo Leonardo's interest in the relationship between nature, the human form, and the cosmic order. In some interpretations, the rocks represent the foundation of the Church and the strength of the faith, while their strange, almost otherworldly appearance might be intended to evoke a sense of mystery and spiritual transcendence. One of the most striking aspects of the Virgin of the Rocks is Leonardo's use of chiaroscuro, the technique of modeling figures through the contrast of light and shadow. The use of soft transitions between light and dark on the figures, especially on the Virgin's face, gives a sense of three-dimensionality and lifelike realism that was revolutionary for the time. In the painting, light is used not just as a tool for realistic representation, but also as a means to guide the viewer's eye and create an atmospheric effect. The figures are illuminated from an unseen light source, giving them an ethereal quality. This use of light enhances the spiritual nature of the scene, as though the characters are glowing with divine radiance, further reinforcing the painting's mystical ambiance. The background, with its dark, shadowy tones and misty atmosphere, contrasts with the lightness of the figures, intensifying their spiritual presence. Leonardo's treatment of light and shadow gives the entire composition a sense of depth, and his expertise in creating this atmosphere sets him apart from his contemporaries. The composition of the figures in the Virgin of the Rocks is significant, not just for its naturalistic rendering, but also for its psychological complexity. The interaction between the figures is deeply symbolic. 1. The Virgin Mary. She sits at the center of the composition, holding the infant Jesus, but her gaze is directed outward, away from the figures around her. Her pose conveys a sense of maternal care and divine grace. The protective nature of her posture towards the child and the way she places her hand on John's head symbolize her role as the protector of both the infant Christ and the faithful. 2. The infant Jesus and St. John the Baptist. The interaction between Jesus and St. John is tender, highlighting their future connection and spiritual bond. The act of Christ reaching out to St. John in this early stage of life foreshadows their future roles in Christian theology. The relationship of the Baptist with the Messiah, culminating in the baptism of Jesus by John. 3. The angel Uriel. The angel's calm, nurturing presence adds to the sense of divine protection over the holy figures. Uriel's protective stance over the Virgin and her child reflects the theme of safeguarding and divine intervention. The arrangement of these figures within a carefully balanced space reflects Leonardo's mastery of composition, with each character positioned in relation to the others to create a harmonious sense of interaction, while their gestures convey complex theological meanings. The Virgin of the Rocks is often praised for its emotional depth and the way Leonardo portrays the psychological and spiritual states of his subjects. The expressions of the Virgin, the infant Jesus, and St. John convey a sense of calm contemplation. This depth of emotion is enhanced by the subtle modeling of the faces and the way light interacts with the features. Unlike the more static, formal portraits of earlier periods, Leonardo's figures seem to be alive with emotion and thought. Their gazes are directed in various ways, suggesting introspection and the complex relationships between the divine figures. The figures are not merely symbolic representations, but individuals with personalities, adding a layer of psychological depth to the religious scene. The Virgin of the Rocks is an example of Leonardo's innovative approach to religious art. His ability to combine naturalism with spiritual symbolism was groundbreaking and would influence future generations of artists. The way he depicted the human form with anatomical accuracy, while also imbuing the figures with spiritual significance, set a new standard for portraiture and religious painting. Moreover, Leonardo's use of sfumato, the technique of blending colors and tones without harsh lines, contributed to the softness and naturalism of the figures, giving them a living, breathing quality. This technique was ahead of its time and would go on to have a significant influence on other Renaissance artists, including Raphael and Michelangelo. The atmospheric perspective in the background of the painting also represents a significant step forward in landscape painting. The soft fading of the landscape into the distance adds depth and enhances the mystical quality of the scene. The Virgin of the Rocks is a stunning work that showcases Leonardo da Vinci's mastery of both art and symbolism. It combines his profound understanding of the human form with his ability to depict complex religious themes in a naturalistic and emotionally compelling way. The painting's use of light and shadow, innovative composition, and psychological depth make it a cornerstone of Renaissance art. As a reflection of Leonardo's genius, the Virgin of the Rocks continues to be a source of admiration and inspiration for both art historians and art lovers worldwide. Its perfect blend of realism, spirituality, and symbolism ensures its place as one of the greatest masterpieces of the Renaissance. Saint Anne, the Virgin, and the Child with the Lamb is a renowned painting by Leonardo da Vinci, created around 1500 to 1507. This masterpiece is held in the Louvre Museum in Paris and is one of the most important works of the Renaissance. It depicts an intimate and tender family scene, showcasing the relationship between Saint Anne, the Virgin Mary, and the infant Jesus, with the symbolic lamb, which is central to the composition. The scene presents a family portrait of the Holy Family, capturing a moment of deep affection and tenderness between Saint Anne, the Virgin Mary, and the infant Jesus. The composition is unique in that it represents the Holy Family, not in a typical religious setting, but in a more humanized, familial context. It is believed to have been commissioned for a private devotional purpose, reflecting the intimate relationship between the figures, rather than a grand public religious scene. The composition features 1. Saint Anne, the mother of the Virgin Mary. She is depicted as an older woman, embracing and guiding her daughter and grandson. Her protective and loving nature is conveyed in her posture as she gently holds Mary and her grandson Jesus. The figure of Saint Anne is often associated with maternal love, wisdom, and spiritual guidance. 2. The Virgin Mary. Mary is depicted as a young woman holding her child, Jesus, and engaging with both him and Saint Anne in a familial, affectionate manner. Her maternal love for Jesus is expressed not just through her posture, but also through the tender gaze she shares with him. She seems to be in a moment of contemplation, reflecting the deep bond between mother and child. 3. The infant Jesus. Jesus is portrayed as a small child, engaging directly with Saint Anne and the Virgin Mary. He gestures towards the Lamb, which is symbolically linked to his future role as the Lamb of God in Christian theology. The Lamb is a significant symbol in Christian iconography, representing purity, sacrifice, and Christ's role as the sacrificial Lamb in the redemption of humanity. The Lamb. The presence of the Lamb in the composition is one of the key symbolic elements of the painting. The Lamb represents Jesus' future sacrifice and his identity as the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. In medieval and Renaissance art, the lamb was a common symbol of innocence and sacrifice, foreshadowing Christ's crucifixion. In this particular scene, the lamb's presence is subtle but powerful, adding depth and meaning to the familial interaction. The painting is rich with symbolic meaning. Each element in the composition carries theological significance. The lamb, it represents Christ's sacrifice and his future crucifixion. In Christian iconography, the lamb is a powerful symbol of Christ's innocence, purity, and his role as the Redeemer. In this scene, the lamb's presence in the hands of the Virgin Mary and the child's pointing gesture towards it foreshadow Christ's mission on earth. Saint Anne's role. As the mother of the Virgin Mary, Saint Anne symbolizes wisdom, maternal love, and spiritual nurturing. Her presence in the painting reinforces the importance of motherhood and familial relationships. In the context of Christianity, Saint Anne's nurturing role serves as a reminder of the values of faith and care in shaping the future generation, particularly the Virgin Mary, who would give birth to the Savior. The Virgin Mary's maternal love. The intimate relationship between the Virgin Mary and her Son, Jesus, is a recurring theme in Christian art. In this painting, Leonardo portrays their bond as deeply human and affectionate, emphasizing the tenderness of their relationship while maintaining their divine significance. Leonardo da Vinci's skillful composition and technical innovations are evident in every aspect of this painting. His approach to light and shadow, chiaroscuro, is used to create a sense of three-dimensionality and realism. The soft modeling of the figures, achieved through subtle transitions of light and dark, makes them appear lifelike and natural. This technique was revolutionary during the Renaissance, contributing to the overall sense of realism in Leonardo's work. The figures are grouped together in a pyramidal structure, which is typical of Renaissance art, creating a balanced and harmonious composition. The placement of Saint Anne, Mary, and Jesus in a triangular formation draws the viewer's attention to the intimate connection between the figures. The triangular composition also symbolizes the Holy Trinity, further reinforcing the religious significance of the scene. The background is relatively simple, with a serene, muted landscape, which does not distract from the figures themselves. The naturalistic landscape, which includes rolling hills and soft lighting, reflects Leonardo's deep understanding of atmospheric perspective and his interest in the relationship between the human figure and the natural world. One of the most remarkable aspects of Saint Anne, the Virgin, and the Child with the Lamb is the psychological depth of the figures. Leonardo's ability to convey the inner emotions of his subjects is evident in the way he portrays the relationships between Saint Anne, Mary, and Jesus. The expressions on their faces convey not just maternal love and care, but also a sense of contemplation, spiritual connection, and understanding. Saint Anne has a calm, wise expression, reflecting her role as a spiritual guide and protector. Her maternal love for both the Virgin Mary and Jesus is evident in the way she gently interacts with them, emphasizing her importance in the Holy Family. The Virgin Mary's expression is gentle and serene, conveying both her deep love for Jesus and a sense of reflection on her role as his mother. Her gaze is tender and affectionate, reinforcing the intimate bond between her and the child. The infant, Jesus, seems curious and engaged, pointing towards the Lamb, suggesting his awareness of his future role in the divine plan. His posture and interaction with the Lamb suggest innocence and purity, characteristic of a child, but with a subtle foreshadowing of his future sacrificial role. Leonardo's technical mastery in depicting the human form and his understanding of anatomy are evident in this work. The softness of the flesh, the modeling of the muscles, and the detailed rendering of the figure's features demonstrate his ability to blend scientific knowledge with artistic skill. The naturalism of the figures is a hallmark of his work, as he was deeply interested in depicting the human body with accuracy, while also conveying the soul and spirit of his subjects. The Lamb, a key symbolic figure in the composition, is rendered with remarkable detail, adding to the realism of the painting. Leonardo's careful attention to texture and fur allows the Lamb to look lifelike, enhancing the overall sense of realism in the work. This painting is a prime example of Leonardo da Vinci's ability to blend artistic innovation with deep religious symbolism. The work is part of a long tradition of Madonna and child paintings in Christian art, but it stands out for its psychological complexity and emotional depth. The intimate, familial portrayal of the Holy Family was innovative for its time, and it had a significant influence on later artists, including Raphael and Michelangelo. Leonardo's ability to convey complex religious themes through naturalistic depictions of the human figure and his use of light and shadow had a profound impact on the development of Renaissance art. The painting also represents a turning point in how artists began to focus more on the human side of religious figures, bringing them closer to the viewer and emphasizing their humanity while maintaining their divinity. Saint Anne, the Virgin, and the Child with the Lamb is a stunning example of Leonardo da Vinci's mastery in blending realism, spiritual symbolism, and psychological depth. The painting's intimate portrayal of the Holy Family as a loving and protective unit reflects the artist's understanding of both the emotional and spiritual aspects of these figures. The symbolism of the Lamb, the tender interactions between the figures, and Leonardo's meticulous attention to detail make this work one of the most powerful and enduring masterpieces of the Renaissance.